All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another beautiful episode of the Rise Urban Nation podcast. Our guest today is no other than Dr. Njideka Olatunde. Did I say it right? Did I get it right?
I'll accept that.
How you say? No, all right, repeat the first name. I know I got Olatunde right.
It's Njideka.
Njideka. So we're not gonna accept it. We're gonna put some respect on the name because there's a powerful story to this name. And for the rest of the episode, I'm gonna say Dr. Olatunde is gonna break it down for us. Dr. O.
All right.
Dr. O is a master reflexologist, holistic pain relief expert, and advocate for medication-free healing. With over 40 years of experience, Dr. Olatunde has helped thousands break free from chronic pain using Reflexology-Touchology, a method that emphasizes pain relief first before treatment. And if you or someone you love has been struggling with chronic pain, emotional distress, or the limitations of traditional medicine, this episode is for you. We'll be talking about her journey, the challenges in integrating holistic pain relief into modern healthcare, and how we can all reclaim control over our health, starting with the power of touch. So let's jump into it. Now, I'm going to jump into it by saying this. Me and you had a great conversation in the green room. And you have both a Yoruba name and an Igbo name. And I need to understand, how did you get a Yoruba name and an Igbo name?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me as your guest, and I'm looking forward to sharing information with everyone who's listening. And to give you a little background, I originally studied reflexology in Nigeria. And that goes back to the fact that I was doing a tracing of my ancestral lineage, and I have Native American and African ancestry. And so I wanted to have the experience of going to the bush to learn how to do healing. I didn't want the urban areas. I wanted to be in the bush. And so because I had Nigerian ancestry in my family lineage, the Baba gave me the name Njideka, which is Igbo, and Olatunde, which is Yoruba, as a symbol of uniting the Nigerian tribal connection as one, because both tribes were taken to the American shores. And my name is a representation of unifying the Nigerian ancestry that we have here in the United States.
I love that. I love that so much because that's what we're all about. We're about unifying. As everybody knows on the podcast, you know, my dad is from Nigerian culture, from the Yoruba tribe, and my Nigerian name is Adekunle. My mom is from New York. I don't know if she's traced her ancestry, but there's been some talk about some of her ancestry being Nigerian too. But we need to make that connection, and that's a beautiful connection. And I love that uniting because it breaks down. It kind of gets rid of that tribalism that we see in the country. And I love even going a little bit further. Like I feel we can make these connections in the U.S. as well. It helps, you know, separate all of the disconnections between, you know, Black Americans from their African roots and culture and so forth. I don't know. What's your feelings around that? Like, I feel like this could really help with the connection piece and bridging.
Well, I want to share a little insight, and I hope that everyone can understand what I'm getting ready to say. Everything happens for a reason. And what we are experiencing right now is probably, and I know a lot of people may feel uncomfortable, but this is the best time for Africans born in Africa Africans born in the continent, Africans born on the islands, Africans worldwide, Africans here in the United States. This is the best of times for us. And the reason being because we're in a universal time of blessings. This is our time. And what I'm saying to everyone is understand nobody's paying attention to us. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
cares what's going on because in their eyesight, they have taken everything from us. We don't represent anything. So they don't have to spend time to do anything for us anymore, which means that the universe is saying, I'm pulling off the covers for you to come forward and claim that which you are and all the things that belong to you. It's called uniting. And uniting for us, if we understand it, is our power base.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yes.
knows that but us.
Yeah.
It's our power base. And we've got to know that this is the time right now that we need to be tapping in to unifying with each other, putting aside all differences because it's about what I call your freedom mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think a lot of people understand that is our power base. That's why they spend so much time separating us and watching us to make sure we
Exactly.
don't connect. Because when
Exactly.
we do beautiful things. I mean, if you even go back to our history, like not the history that we learned in the U.S. of, that starts from slavery, but before, way, way, way before, when they used to come from all over the world to learn
Exactly.
from us, back when a black man was the richest man on this planet and gave, like
Exactly.
had so much wealth that he gave it away to help uplift others. Um, and I think once we understand who we are as a people, and that our power base is what it is, and our ability to create because of our unity and our shared knowledge and wisdom and the birth of everything that comes through us.
Mhm.
Oh man, that's gonna be magnificent. Like you got me dreaming now.
Well, see, the thing that we also have to understand, quote and unquote, I'm not a big fan of Black History Month, but I'm going to share this with you. Quote
Okay.
and unquote. When we talk about Black history, we've got to know that all of those people who were defined as slaves and brought here, they too came from ancestors that we are connected with. We need to start looking at that ancestry connection, which really defines who we are as kings, queens, teachers,
Mm-hmm.
healers, leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That spirit is what I want all of your listeners to understand. It's what's flowing right now. And you got to tap into it because
Mm-hmm.
that's the ancestry energy that is coming forth. All you got to do is start looking at your young people. They
Mm-hmm.
are the reflections of that spirit, not the ones that we are taught in history in terms of our life started with slavery. We are much more than that. We have a connection that goes way beyond that. And guess what? It's
Mm-hmm.
based on the power base that we have called spirit. We
I
are
love that.
connected in spirit. And that's what brings us together. And when we tap into that, nothing can stop you.
I love that. I love that. This is a powerful start to the podcast already, and I'm excited just to learn more from you and have my uh, our audience just learn more from you. Let's go back just a little bit before
Mhm.
we go too much down the rabbit hole of that segue. But I think that's a good start to start to
Mhm.
talk about the power connection that we'll get into later in this episode. I wanna learn and explore a little bit. If you could share a little bit about yourself and your journey into holistic healing, because I'm curious how you got into it. What inspired you to explore pain relief through reflexology and touchology? How did that start?
Well, let me see how I can do a condensed version for you. The way that I share this is that I grew up on home remedies.
Okay.
And because I grew up on home remedies, I grew up at a time when doctors did home visits. You didn't go to the doctor came to your home. And
Mm-hmm.
so as a child and I'm seeing a doctor come into my house, I said, oh, wow, a healer. And that's as a child, that's what I saw him as, a healer. I said,
Yeah.
that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a healer.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I get to college. And when I get to college and I'm seeing what I'm going to have to learn to be what I thought was a healer and how they teach you to become a doctor, I said, oh no, this is not going to work for me. So let me change my career path. And I became a social worker. So as a social worker, I covered the whole gambit from infants to seniors in every phase of social service. I did it. But while I was working as a social worker, I noticed that everybody was going to their emergency room for the doctor. And I said, something's wrong with this picture here. And all of a sudden, the energy sparked up again. I want to be a doctor. So that was a time when natural and alternative healthcare was opening up. And I went back to school and became trained to be a naturopathic practitioner. But what I want you to know is that I had learned reflexology first before
Gotcha.
naturopath. So when I became a naturopath, I just added reflexology as my service component to my
Okay.
practice. Now, to give you the real essence of what I do today and who I am, when I started my practice, working with senior citizens. That's how I built
Mm.
my practice base, working with seniors. And when you understand seniors and work with seniors, you have to be on point with them. They know what they want. You got to give it to them when they want it, and you got to give it to them how they want it.
Right.
And so that was my first learning experience with seniors.
Okay.
Now, when I introduced reflexology to them, and before I get into the story, I have to pay homage to my seniors because the bulk of my career life was spent under the tutelage of all of the seniors that I worked. And for who I am today is really in honor, and I pay tribute to each and every last one of them. And the reason is because when I first introduced reflexology to seniors, they came back to me and said, oh, I love that reflexology. But now, can you take care of my feet and hands? That's what I want. That meant they wanted manicures and pedicures. I knew nothing about the beauty industry. And so I said, okay. So there was a school that was on the West Coast that came to the East Coast because I'm based in Stress Capital USA, AKA Washington, D.C. And
That's
so
my hometown, so I know what you mean. I moved away from Washington D.C. So just to tell you a quick funny story, I
uh,
moved away from Washington D.C. because when I was living in Washington D.C., it was Chocolate City, but it was also the
right,
murder capital. And I was like, okay, I
yes,
got to get up out of here, and I got out to California, where sunshine and the nice weather and everything. So
most
I hear you with
definitely.
stress capital. But go ahead, stress capital.
And so what happened was there was a school from out of California that came to the East Coast. They were in New York and they did a training program. So I said, okay, let me go up to New York and see how they're introducing reflexology to the beauty industry. So I
Okay.
took the training program, and then at the end of the program, they came up to me and said, well, since we're here on the East Coast, we'll come down to DC and teach a program if you would put it together. I had never done anything like that before in my life. So I called all my massage therapy and healthcare practitioner friends, put this program together. They came down, taught the program. As a result of that, I wound up becoming their East Coast and Southeast instructor, teaching
Ah.
reflexology in the beauty industry. Going back to the seniors, now they put me into the teaching component. While I was teaching reflexology, then healthcare practitioners came and said, well, how can we do reflexology? We want to add it to our health practice. So then I put together a certification training program for healthcare practitioners. Then my seniors introduced me to their family members, and their family members started receiving. Then I got into the corporate world in terms of providing services and all of that. Then it finally moved into, now we're going to look at pain. And that was because the opiate epidemic was coming, and I started focusing on, why are we losing so many people to the opiates? Because of pain. And so then I worked and moved me into the research. So then I got into doing research in terms of connecting reflexology and relieving pain. And so that led me to create relieving pain first before treatment. And that evolved into who I am and what I do today because of me starting my practice with senior citizens who paved the path for me to go this route. And this is what I do now.
I love that. I love that whole story. And you had me thinking about how, throughout the years, we've seen healthcare change, and most of it is because of just capitalism. We've adopted more of the Western medicine and modalities, and the natural holistic path, Eastern medicine, has been lost throughout that. And I'm thinking, like, man, how do we even start to even incorporate this and bring this back? Where you have, the modern day healers coming out to the community and really addressing, the healthcare in the communities from this more holistic standpoint.
Yes.
But I love it. I love all of it. Now, your work has, just looking at that journey, and then, also me looking online and just seeing an amazing work that you've done. Your work has empowered thousands to kind of just break free from pain. But I'm sure the journey wasn't always easy. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in bringing just holistic pain relief to the mainstream? Did you face any skepticism from the medical community or from our folks? Because I know sometimes our folks could be really hard when it comes to things that we don't understand, especially, but I'm glad to see we're making the transition. Like, I'll give like therapy, for example. Like, there's once upon a time, therapy was just taboo in the Black community, but now we're making a little bit of a change where we're saying, all right, we got some trauma, we need to heal, we need to start doing therapy, right? But what were your biggest challenges that you faced bringing holistic pain relief to the mainstream?
That's an excellent question because, in life, each of us is given a mission that we're supposed to do. And trust me, this was not what I wanted to do. I mean, I fought it for the longest time.
And the guy said, I don't care what you want to do. I got a plan for you. You gotta be on. I need you to walk in your purpose on purpose.
Exactly. Because the major thing that I understood, and I know very well, is that when you start talking about medication-free alternatives in relieving pain, there's a big industry out there that makes it very hard for practitioners to operate in that arena. And so for the longest time, I had to work on myself in terms of understanding what it is I'm being asked to do. And so my biggest opposition was going up against Big Pharma. I mean, that's the deal. But what I had to come to understand was the fact that when we as a people talk about healing, we have to look at it from the standpoint of the cultural connection. We heal based on culture, not on medication. And I say that to say is that when I was evolving into me stepping out now on the front line and being a pain relief advocate, educator, and ambassador for chronic pain sufferers, I had to come with the solid base of what do I stand for? How am I standing on this? And I'm standing on the fact that we, each and every one of us, is born with the power to heal ourselves by taking back control of our healing using the one tool that each and every one of us has and was born with, the power of our hands. This is where our healing is. It's in the power of our hands. We have some powerful hands. Look at your history. Everything you did was based on the power of your hands, and you have to understand how powerful your hands are. And when we talk about relieving pain medication free, it's based on the power that's in our hands to make this happen, and it cannot be bottled by pharmaceuticals because it's our essence, culturally, as well as emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. This is who we are. We are healers. Each and every one of us is a healer, and we have to take back that control. And once we understand that, I know it's not going to be easy because of the culture that we were brought up in, but guess what? Your spirit never left. And you got to refeed it. You got to feed it again. It's
Man.
begging for nourishment, and that comes through understanding the power you have in your hands.
Wow, that's powerful. I'm holding in that moment right there, the power of your hands and taking that and reclaiming back that power. From diving into your world, and there's a lot of healers still out there. There's a small circle of them. You guys have your small circles across the globe, and because of you, I was getting more educated and doing my research and exploring like these small circles, and seeing what these communities are doing and saying and how they're helping others to reclaim back their power. And then I stumbled across a post that you had mentioned on LinkedIn. You recently commented on, I think, a gentleman was talking about keeping the circle small, and how intentional that was, and purpose, doing it on purpose, and how powerful it is to have a small circle, and so forth. And I think what you had said on that LinkedIn post, that having a small circle of of folks, like something that about it there's trust, respect, and encouragement, and I'm wondering, how has your close knit community supported you on this journey, and what advice do you have for those who feel isolated while pursuing their passion or their purpose, like you've been able to do, and just like you said, you fighted it for so long, but once you locked in, the rest was history, right? So what would you give, as far as advice on this?
That's an excellent question. And we have to think about, no matter what it is or where you are in life. I always think of the quote that Muhammad Ali said in terms of your purpose here on earth and what you do is the rent you pay the universe for your presence here.
Mm,
And so all of us need to define what is our reason for being here and prepare yourself to pay the rent
man.
to the universe for your purpose being here. And I say that to say is that no matter what anybody says or thinks about what it is you want to do, who it is you want to be, step on the front line and stand for who you are. One of the things I've learned is that we've got to get in a position of stop looking for someone to take our hand and lead us to the promised land. We have to take that step. And as you take one step, trust me, there's someone following you. You're not going it alone. And you don't even, may not even know who that person is, but there's someone that's following you in terms of direction. We've got to get back into, we may not like working in the fields, but the fields that we need to be working in now is the field that has us paving the path. It's not having someone pave the path and you follow them. No, you pave your path. And when you pave your path, there's someone who wants that same path that you've paved. They will follow you. And when they follow you, be prepared to do this one thing. Be prepared to pass the baton. That's our biggest dilemma. We have so many that have gone on to make transition and they failed to pass the baton. And that's why we're floundering around like we are now. Their spirit is still flowing, but they didn't give us the foundation that we needed to build upon. It's important for us to know to pass the baton, and which I go back to with my peers in particular. We've got to stop as it relates to young people being upset with them. There's nothing wrong with them. All they are asking for, they don't want instructions from us. They don't want to hear about what we did down memory lane and all that. All they want to know is, will you spend some time and hear how I see things? We need to listen to them. And when you listen to them, you're now listening to your future leaders, teachers, healers. That's who they are. And when you listen to them, if you have a gift or a talent, pass the baton on to them and support them in taking it to the next level. That's my joy right now, is being able to tap into, I love them. I mean, it's not about that I have to agree with everything that they say, but when I listen to them, I learn something new. I get to hear how they think, how they see things. And the other piece I want to share, although we're talking about pain and stress, the most stressful people who are dealing with the most pain is our young people. And the reason is because as adults, we know how to go find ways to release stress and pain. But have you spent the time showing or telling a young person what they can do to relieve their stress and pain without always challenging them? Their stress and pain is because of your challenging them. It's not about them not doing what you expect them to do. They are searching. And that's one of the things that I focus on, is teaching young people between the ages of 8 to 18 how to do reflexology as a way of relieving stress and pain. And that's what we have to look at when I say pass the baton. And the first tool of healing, the very first one, is called listening.
I love that. I love that. And I uplift that by saying, you know, when we listen, we have to be active listeners and really listen to understand, you know, because one elder that I was speaking to in community and a leader, you know, they were in community and they were talking to some youth and another group of youth that I happen to talk to as well. And when they was listening to them, they was listening to them with the intent of trying to solve their problem, trying to teach them, trying to guide them, and and there was a little bit of judgment there as well,
Mm-hmm.
because my
Mm-hmm.
generation wasn't like that. So here's the problem with your generation, and here's what you need to do. And I was like, hey, elder, I appreciate the wisdom you give to these young folks, but I think what they need is just somebody to just listen to understand them, and
Yes.
try to be in their shoes for a second, right?
Yes.
And get curious, and without the judgment, and without the trying to fix anything, or misredigate like what you think, what you see from your history, the history that they may
Mm-hmm.
be walking out. Because even when you listen with a level of understanding, just trying to truly understand, you can still better risk mitigate, and you can hear what's not being said, which is the pain
Mm-hmm.
that they feel and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. And then they
Mm-hmm.
might be open later on down the road to really receive the history lesson of what you're trying to give them, that's going to help them
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
repeat the mistakes that you may have repeated. And, so I add that caveat to it just because.
It's very important because what and I have to get on my generation because see, we grew up in an era where it's do as I say and not as you think you're supposed to do. It's just do as I
Mhm.
say. Don't
Yeah.
no questions asked. And it served a purpose for that time period. It cannot apply to today's time period. These young people are so advanced because they're growing up in a technological society, and they have to be
Hmm.
fast in terms of grasping things. And so once you understand that, I know in my interaction they don't care about what you did. They want to see some action. They want to see the fruits of your conversation, the fruits
Hmm.
of your talk. So, which means you've got to come showing. You cannot approach them with, well, we did this, or this is what you should be doing. It's not going to work. And that's where you got the conflict. And I say that to say, is that here we go back again. These young people did right now don't necessarily have what I had growing up because most of our older people in our lives were a lot older with a lot more years of experience. So then you were able to sit down and ask questions. These young people don't have that because most of their aunts and uncles are close in age to them, so it's not a lot of
Hmm.
experience going on. So what you have to do as an elder in the community, you have to come with open hands saying, let me hear
Hmm.
your world. Let
Yeah.
me learn about your world. And you're going to see there's some commonality there if
Hmm.
you come with open hands saying, let me hear your world. Because there is nothing new under the sun. Our parents went through the
Hmm.
same thing with us because we were going through our particular changes. So if you're dealing with young people, think back to when you were a child and all of the challenges you went through and what your elders and parents thought about you. It's the exact same thing. There's no difference.
But, yeah, yeah. And then each generation thinks their music was the best music, and each generation is like, you don't know nothing about this young. It's just funny to see history repeat itself, and then
Hmm.
how we forget that is a constant theme from generation to
Yes.
generation.
Yes.
One of the most fascinating things about your work is your approach. You know, pain relief first before treatment. Can you walk us through how that works and why it's so effective?
Thank you for asking me that because it's real crucial. Remember, I said the first healing tool begins with listening. And the reason why I say pain relief first before treatment is because when someone comes to me and they're in pain, most people never connect pain with stress and stress with pain. They go hand in hand. You do not have pain without stress, and you don't have stress without pain. And
Hmm.
so Most people don't connect that. And when you connect it, what I'm talking about is stress is something that's happening outside of your body that you bring inside. And when you bring it inside your body, what's now happening is the stress is trying to come out, but it can't come out through the normal channels of elimination. So it's going to attack the area that may be weak. It may wind up being you got back pain. It may wind up being you got a headache. It may wind up being raising your blood pressure. Now you got hypertension. All of these are the result of stress trying to relieve itself from the body. And if you don't address the stress, it winds up becoming defined as a diagnosed illness. All because of stress. Remember, outside of the body that you bring inside. So, when I see a client, okay, let me back up a minute and do the business side of this. When you go to the store, you know what you want. So you go in the store and go down the aisle, wherever it is, and go purchase what it is you want. When you go to the doctor, you know exactly what you want. You're going to the doctor because you're in pain and you don't want nothing else but pain relief. So when you go into the doctor, what is the doctor going to say? You say, oh, I got this backache. And so what's the doctor going to say? Well, we've got to do a few tests to find out what's causing the back pain. But in the meantime, here's a prescription for your pain. Now, you've been given a prescription for pain that you don't know what's causing it. And there you are. So, if we backtrack and I say relieve pain first before treatment, what I'm talking about is my first opportunity is going to be, I'm going to be listening. I'm going to let you talk to me all about all your pain, what's going on with it. But I'm listening for one thing and one thing only, the stress connection. Because once I hear the stress that's connected to your pain, we now can move into using reflexology to relieve the pain. Going back again, power of touch. First is listening, then we move to the physical touch. Now, your pain is relieved, you're feeling a little better. Now you're more open to what? Let's move to the treatment. So when we talk about the treatment, you say you got back pain. We're talking about now integrative, holistic therapeutic approaches to relieving your pain, because you have to understand where you're feeling the pain is not the cause of the problem. It's just the outlet when you understand that connection. So which means is if you having back pain, does that mean you need to see a chiropractor? Do we need to align the spine? Does that mean you need to see an acupuncturist? You need to work with the nerve endings throughout the whole body as it relates to pain? Or do you need a massage? Do we need to work on the muscular system and relax the muscles so you can take the pressure off of the nerve ending that's causing you to feel the pain? Or do we need to look at you need a body cleanse? Is the body in need of cleansing? So you got toxin buildup that needs to be released. Or do you need some energy work? Do we need to look at how we can put some energy to get the spiritual essence flowing throughout your body, mentally, physically? All of these things play a part because you have 11 systems of the body and each needs something different from each other. And that's called the holistic approach, where we use reflexology as the base for pain relief, and then we move to the treatment. So that's what the concept is, relieving pain first before treatment.
I like that. I like that. You know, I was on scrolling down Instagram, and there was this black woman who came on one of the posts that was talking a little bit about this, and she was saying the most important thing we can do in our life is to eliminate as much stress as possible at all costs, if we want to have whole healthy lives. And she's like, and let me be clear about what I mean when I say that. I notice I said eliminate. I didn't say manage. That's what she said.
All right.
And she's like, when I say eliminate, people think of manage. When you're managing stress, that's when you're going to exercise, you're going on vacations, you're going
Mhm.
to, you know, do all these different things
Yes.
that bring, you know, wellness in your life. That's managing. You need
Yes.
to eliminate.
Most definitely.
Like
That's
that's the
so
most
true.
important thing that's going to help you live longer and healthier.
Hmm.
Eliminating the stress
Hmm.
factors in your life. And I was like, ooh, that's like that is some really wise knowledge.
Yes.
And so, like, would you agree with that? And you know, what are your thoughts on that?
100%. Because the bottom line is the stress in your life is not real. See,
Hmm.
see, see, that's where the problem is. Most people right now, if you look at media 24/7 all day long, what is it designed? To keep you stressed out all day long. Because what's happening? That's something outside of your body that you're bringing inside and internalizing. Well, this can happen, that can happen. Oh, I got this. All of that. Because what your eyes see is only an illusion. You got to
Hmm.
deal with what your spirit feels. And because our spirit is so hungry now, we can't feed it so that we can heal ourselves. That's where the problem is. When we talk about stress, all you're
Hmm.
doing is this imaginary stuff you see, because, well, you know, this is happening, that's happening. So what? How does it affect you right now in the moment? What role is it playing in your life right now in the moment? And once you understand that, now you can get back to being who you were created to be. And that's all you need to be focusing on. If
Hmm.
we're going to eliminate stress, and the other thing too is now, for us as a people, stress is known as what they call drama, how we like drama. And drama ain't nothing but stress. And once you get rid of the drama, you get
Uh,
rid of the stress.
yeah, that's facts. Like, so I love that. I love that. And it's so simple, but why do people have such a hard time with it? Why do we have such a hard time eliminating the stresses from our life? Some of it, you know, I feel it's easy to point the stress and eliminate it, but we still stay so glued in and connected. Like just your example of the TV, of everything that's happening in the world, and we say it's not affecting us in the moment, but we stay so glued into it. And for lack of better words, why can't we be like Kendrick Lamar and or do what Kendrick Lamar said and just turn your TV off?
Exactly. Remember now, you opened up and talked about it. Back in the day, there was a word that was always used as it related to health, and it was called preventive health care. We used to deal with
Hmm.
prevention.
Hmm.
And I say this, which is an example. We don't understand how to relate to our bodies in terms of health, healing, and wellness. And that's a big problem. And when I say preventive, back then we used to talk about what? Having physical checkups like you do for your automobile. You have the maintenance checkup on your automobile, which by example for you to understand that the automobile is an exact replica of your body. It operates the exact same thing. That's the same design. And so when we focus on our automobile and we purchase that car and they say X number of months go take it and do a maintenance, or say the engine light comes on, you hear a little clank and you walk into the mechanic and you tell them what's wrong with it. And because it's a mechanical problem, your mechanic will know what they need to do to work on the car. But guess what? You walk into your doctor, Just like your doctor is an automobile mechanic. You go in there and say, well, my back's hurting, and you expect the doctor to instantly know what it is they're supposed to do. You've got to stop treating your body like you do your automobile. When you go to your doctor, you need to go in there being a kid. And what's the one thing? Scratch that. I don't like that word, kid. You need to go into your doctor being a child. And I say that to say, what's the one thing that children always do? When you tell children not to do something or they can't go nowhere, they got one favorite word that they always come out with, and that's called why. And you've got to do the same thing when you go to your doctor. Whatever the doctor says, your question should always be, well, why do I have this? Why I got to take this? Why is this does this and this does that? And I say that to say because now you move yourself out of being a victim of your pain and stress. You ask that question, why we stuck? Because we have become a victim. When they put the label out there and say, you got ADHD, you got fibromyalgia or whatever, when you accept those labels, you become a victim. Every time you accept a label, you become a victim. And I say this to say, there's only one label that you have in this physical existence, and that label is your name. Because behind that name, there's something special that's connected to that name, which is your label. That's the only label you got. All this other stuff means nothing. And so in order for you to be about relieving stress that's connected to pain and letting go of the drama that you've become a victim of, you've got to take the first step in understanding who you are. And the other thing I tell people is you got to make a decision. When you look at your body, is your body a warehouse or is it a temple? In a warehouse, you just throw stuff in there and it'll be whatever. You may not even never go in there, but you just keep putting stuff in there. If your body is a temple, it's something sacred and precious that you share and treasure. When you get to that point, now we move to the next phase. Okay, I'm doing physical maintenance, and the next maintenance I have to do is mind. The mind needs a mental health treatment. We've got to get into that whether we like it or not, because that's the only way we can start turning things around for us. We need to have a mental health checkup. And those are the things that move you out of seeing stress and being victimized by your stress.
I love that. And I love the whole analogy of the mind, body, and soul as a temple. The thing I was sitting with when you were talking too is where you said the only label is your name, and I was like, man, that's so true, especially if you grow up Nigerian or African culture, because those names have meaning. So they have spiritual meanings, and so the spiritual meaning that you got put on you, oh boy,
That's right.
that's part of the calling that the spiritual ancestors
Exactly.
and so forth have embedded and put on you. And so now you got like, okay, I'm gonna live up to this name.
That's
But
true.
I love it. You trained over 2,500 practitioners and transformed over 3,000 lives, probably more by now. But what has been the most rewarding moment of your career?
Oh, I love that question. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. It goes back to my seniors. And the one most healing experience for me that I label as being a success factor deals with, I had a senior that used to come to me, and every time she came, she brought her granddaughter, and her granddaughter was 10 years old. And one day she had a hypertension experience that ran her pressure up
Mm-hmm.
extremely high. And so they were waiting to call the paramedic to come in.
Yeah.
And her granddaughter grabbed her hands and started trying to imitate what I used to do to her grandmother on her hands. And then she
Uh-huh.
grabbed her grandmother's feet and started doing that. And by the time the paramedics came, her blood pressure had dropped. It had gotten down
Nice.
to a normal state. And I say that to say is that that was so rewarding to me because I never even paid any attention that she was actually paying that much attention every time she came with her grandmother to what I was doing. And as a result of that, this young lady at 10 years of age is what started me teaching young people how to do reflexology. She became my first student. And she wound up
Wow.
becoming an instructor teaching other young people how to do reflexology.
I
And
love
so
that.
that was like, another one of those senior moments with an evolution in terms of me doing what it is I do today. So that was one of my really rewarding experiences as a
Yeah.
reflexologist and as a person who works with young people in relieving pain and stress.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to make sure we get some really good advice and lessons for our
Sure.
entrepreneurs in the audience, and you know, uh, for many Black and Pan African entrepreneurs, wellness often takes the backseat to the hustle and the
Yes.
grind. What advice do you have for business owners who are struggling with stress, burnout, and health issues? And I wouldn't just say just entrepreneurs. This is like people who are community builders, who run nonprofits as well. They just stay on this hustle and grind, and it's like, oh, I gotta be the only one. I gotta show up and do it, because if I don't, who will? And their community is important to them. But what advice would you give for those folks who are struggling with stress, burnout, and health issues?
The first thing I'm going to share, and then when I get to the end of what I'm sharing, I'm going to show you some examples of some things that you can actually do hands on.
Okay.
But the one thing that I would like to share is that we were talking about touch. We've got to understand what touch is. Touch has been presented as something negative, and so we don't want to utilize it to its fullest potential. But as a people, this is who we are. We are a touching people. And I say
Hmm.
this to say is there are two extremely powerful healing words. That is your first form of touch.
Hmm.
And those two powerful words in the form of gratitude is called thank you. When
Mm.
you get up in the morning, you need to wake up giving gratitude by saying thank you. You need to remember to thank the universe for this new day that you're blessed to receive. Once you do that, you pave the way to have a beautiful day, regardless of what goes on all around you, because you just asked for that energy to be around you. After saying thank you, then you need to understand that if your energy level is down or your energy level is high and you're bouncing off the walls or you just mentally drained, you got to understand how to use the other touch tool. And it is this: learn how to smile. Smile does so much healing that you could not possibly imagine. Somebody feeling down, and all of a sudden, you just smiled at them, and that just uplifted them and made their day. Somebody may be going through something really bad, and you just come, and maybe you put your hand on their shoulder, or you just say the words, you know what? Everything gonna be all right. I'm here for you. It's going to be all right. Words like that can change. And those are power moves. If we can understand how to get back to that. And then the other thing, being that you know about DC, we do the bumper to bumper traffic, and all of a sudden nobody wants to let you over and this kind of thing. And then somebody, just lays back a little bit and gives you enough room to get in, and you raise your hand up to them as a form of saying thank you. That may have made that person's day. You don't know that just because somebody acknowledged them. It's little small things, and it's called touch. This is our spirit connection, and we've got to understand how powerful that is as it relates to healing, which leads me into how does this all work? So I'm going to share with you about the reflexology as it relates to relieving pain and stress. For those who may not know what reflexology is the art and science of working specific nerve ending points found on the feet, hands, and ears to relax and relieve stress, pain, discomfort, elimination, improve circulation, remove toxins and impurities from the body. This is what reflexology does. Now, you may be saying, okay, I don't understand that. How does that work? Feet and hands. Look at a chart of anatomy. Look at the nervous system. You'll see how all the nerve endings, they begin in your head and run straight through your body, ending in your hands and your feet. And on the hands and feet, you have, like on your hands, you have 2,500 nerve endings that connect to the whole body, and 7,200 nerve endings in your feet that connect to the whole body. And a reflexologist is working those nerve endings to those systems of the body to relieve pain and stress. Now, you may be saying, okay, that still doesn't make sense to me. So how does that work? So here, let me give you a little example. Remember your funny bone here. You hit the funny bone. What's the first thing you're going to do?
You're probably gonna have a reaction, like either jump up, laugh, something.
Exactly. You're going to do a verbal release. That's usually going to be your first response. What happens is message goes up the nerve ending to the brain. Trauma, stress in the elbow. Then what's the next thing you're going to do?
Probably jump back, or I don't know, but
You're going to rub it. You're going to put your hand on that elbow and you're going to start rubbing it. Message then goes up the nerve ending to the brain. Trauma in the elbow. Send the body's natural pain relievers. They're known as endorphins. That's all a reflexologist is doing, is activating the body's natural pain relievers to come to that area and calm it down and bring some relief. That's the concept of reflexology. That's what we do. Now,
that was good. That was good. All right,
the
go ahead.
same thing when you think about it. When you think about an electricianist, your electricity goes off, and what happens? You flip the circuit breaker, and electricity comes back on. But if you flip the circuit breaker and electricity doesn't come in, you have to call an electrician to come in, and he's going to tell you, well, there's a problem with the wiring, and we got to do the wiring. Well, look at the reflexologist as being your electrician of the body. We work the nerve endings, which is the electrical currents that delivers messages to the brain. That's what we work on. Now, jumping forward, for all of your listeners out there, every last one of you has done reflexology, and you've even received reflexology and don't know that you have. And let me share the example. As a child, you may have received this, and as a parent or a guardian with a child, you've done this to a child. You remember a little thing called This Little Piggy?
Yeah,
Went to the market, and this
I
little
remember
piggy
that.
stayed home. Guess what? That's your first experience of reflexology. Because
Wow.
when you were turning those toes, all of the nerve endings to the head are in the fingers and the toes. And as you are circling it and moving the toes backward and forward and circling, you've activated the nerve endings in the brain to release endorphins to calm you down and relax you. And so for a baby, they may start giggling and laughing, or they may just start calming down just to enjoy, or they may even go to sleep. All of that was your first experience of reflexology.
Yeah, I love
Now,
that.
to show you, when you asked about if you stress, what can people do?
Hmm.
In reflexology, we do this right here is called thumb walking. We just bend our thumb up and down like this. So on the palm of your hand, you're going to take your thumb at the wrist, and all you're going to do is you're going to walk it up, moving all across the palm of the hand towards your fingers, the base of your fingers. Now, guess what? You don't know the exact nerve ending to wherever you're feeling pain or stress, but just that activity alone can bring about relief and relaxation and calmness to the body. You can even do it on your fingers, going up and down each and every finger, just walking it. On the back of the hand, doing the same thing to the fingers, and also walking the back of the hand, going across, and you're doing that. Now, when you do this, what you want to do is, as you're walking, remember to deep breathe, inhale and exhale, and say, I'm relieving my stress. I'm relaxing my body. I'm becoming stress free. I'm calming down. This is all you have to do. Whenever you start feeling tense stuff, just get in the habit. Start walking the palm of your hand. Just walk and stimulate. That right there is your connection. It's the nerve endings and the brain connecting and delivering what the body needs, because it knows that you're stressed, but it also knows how to bring relief to you, because you're doing the major thing that your body wants you to do. Assist it in the healing process.
Love that. Love that. Man, if I had a studio audience, I was like, clap it up for that right now. That was just beautiful. Um, and I'm even gonna take so much of that with me as I go through, you know, the rest of my journey in life to start implementing some of those things with the hands. That coincidentally, I when I'm in stressful meetings, I started like, just rubbing my hands together because that's the only thing I have access to. And I didn't
Instinct?
know that
Yes.
I was doing reflexology there, because
Yes.
like I'll start doing like this, and then
Yes.
in those meetings, and then you made me. It's like, oh, I was I was tapping into something that was ancestral to me and not even knowing.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's the power. That's why I say it's in our hands. We have that power, and we've got to know how to use it. And the other thing too is, in my book, Reflexology Today, A Family Affair, I wrote that book specifically because I felt that at least one member in a household should know how to do some basic reflexology techniques. And this is an activity that you can create as a family affair. Teach a young person how to do this and let them do this to you on your hands. And guess what? Now you got your own personal reflexologist 24/7 right there in your home.
Yeah, that's so much true. That's so true. Now, let's talk about access. How can our listeners learn more about touchology, and start applying it in their own lives? Where should they go? Like, I know you got a website and so forth. So let's get them that information, because and then also, if you have any free resources or training programs coming up that could really connect our folks, let us know. Let us know.
Well, first of all, I encourage everyone to go to my website, which is focusonhealing.com. And one of the things I suggest, go to my contact page, write down any questions, any concerns, or anything about chronic pain, and send it to me. And trust me, I will get back to you because I'm here for you. That's what I do. I work specifically on helping you relieve pain and stress. And so I encourage you, like, leave your comments, leave your questions, in the contact section. The other thing is that I'm also available on social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, those kind of things. You can connect with me there. I also host a podcast called the Touchology Wellness Experience. And I invite you to listen, because I bring on people who are actually doing medication free therapies, as well as people who have instituted medication free therapies in their lives for their healing process. And last but not least, if you're interested in my book, that's also available on my website. And the thing that I wanted to share with you, in the African tradition, you never come to somebody's home for the first time and don't bring a gift. So I have a gift for you and your listeners. I put together a stress and pain relief poster that you can download. And all you have to do is go to Reflexology.com. And the poster is available to you as my gift for you spending this time with me, listening to the information that I shared.
Thank you so much for that. I know I'm going to download mine today. It's going to be up in my office, up at the house. I'm about to teach my little girl this. Dr. Olatunde, it has been such an insightful conversation. I love that you are empowering people to take control of their pain and healing. And for those who want to connect, make sure you also check out www.focusonhealing.com and join Dr. O's email list to receive a free guide on 10 holistic approaches to improve your health and wellness. I know you're on social too: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, at Focus on Healing. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. We'll be back with another inspiring guest on Rise Every Nation. Until the next time, take care of yourself and embrace the power of healing. Thank you.
Thank you.